I'm Jeff Scott, and today we are at Reed Recording Company in Bay City, and we are talking about some more great music that has just been released here in the Great Lakes Bay region, and it is called the Friends of Rosco Collective, and it's been organized by our good friend Ron Rosco Selly, produced by Andy Reed, and we're going to be talking about that today. So, Rosco, let's get right into the album.
Okay.
I want to talk about the music first and foremost. This was a great 1-2 punch, the first song and the second song for me. So the album starts with I'm Ready Now.
I'm ready now. I'm ready now.
I loved it because, it comes in, it's upbeat, it's poppy, and then I hear the organ. So now I'm totally hooked because it's very soulful. And then by the time we get into song number 2,
Everyone knew kind of romance really be through.
instantly 3 o'clock in the morning, and we get into that. Tell me about these first couple of songs on the record.
Yeah, man. Well, sequencing, which is what they call the way that you line up your songs on a record, has always been really tough for me. Andy and I went round and round on this for this record, and my instinct was to put Gradually Blue, which is the second cut, first.
Really?
I think it just sounds great. Paul Randolph is an amazing international talent and stuff.
Sure.
And the more we thought about it, the more I listened to JD's performance on I'm Ready Now, I'm like, why don't we just start out kind of big? It gets gradually big, but by the time the chorus hits, it's a really happening tune. And that's the whole discussion of sequencing that we had was how do we start the record? Who do we hit and clean up? Well,
it's like a baseball
second,
lineup.
Right.
Yeah.
But no,
we,
it is.
We
because
think about it in terms, and there's nine songs on this record too. Now there's no weak hitters in this lineup, so it made it a little tougher.
It's like an all-star team.
It is an all-star team.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the one thing to mention too about starting off with I'm Ready Now is it's a little more universal. Like I think that a lot more people, it's poppier, it's like straight ahead rock, it's got a little bit of the Tom Petty vibe to it, so it's definitely something that I think it's going to be inviting for a lot more people than if we start with like a soulful, like jazzy number.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, with any kind of music, you want to hook them.
Absolutely.
And where
point.
this is a record where we want people to listen to the whole thing. So rather than hitting them with like a deep cut off the front, which we could have done, but I think with JD, he's just got that very natural Americana voice, and,
Sure.
and it just and the song's that way too. So that just made more sense. Even though the thing that was kind of making us want to do Gradually Blue first was I'm Ready Now was like our big rocker on the record.
Yeah.
So it's like we didn't want to like put it out right out of the gate, but then again, it just made the most sense to try to get people into the album because the album is so all over the place musically. So what are we going to do to bring people in, the most people in on the first track? So I think that was the main argument to putting that one first.
You could have just thrown the songs in a hat.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be a bad decision on it. But what Andy said is exactly right. It draws more people in, I think. Gradually Blue, or one of the more soulful songs, you might listen to it and say, oh, it's a bluesy record. When it's not primarily blues or jazz or anything else. It's just a lot of great songs, I think.
Absolutely. So we get into Here Again, the third track on the album. Michelle O'Neill on vocals, and when I heard it, the vocals, it's like they're coming from way, way deep inside, and by the time they come out, they're coming at you like a locomotive, and they're smoky and sultry and just altogether wonderful. Tell me about working with Michelle.
Fantastic. It was a great experience. I probably knew her the least and had worked with her the least of anybody that we had. But I've heard her sing a half a dozen times live, and she blows me away. She's amazing. And I thought that if I could get her on the right song and get her in the right situation, that it would really open people's eyes. It sure did open mine. And she kind of came in and knocked it out of the park, 2 or 3 takes. And it was like, holy cow. There wasn't a ton of overdubs, I don't think, on that. She wanted to come in and redo something, so we brought her in to redo it, and we're like, Michelle, you didn't need to redo that. It was fantastic on the first cut. So she learned the material. She came in smoking hot and just sang the hell out of that song. And that song, too, was one I had maybe a quarter written. I think I probably had some verse chords, no real lyrics. And once I started thinking about doing this project, I really had to finish up a bunch of songs. And once I knew Michelle was going to be singing this, I kind of tried to steer the vocals and the chorus towards something that I thought she could really deliver, and I think it worked out.
So when you started writing the song, did you have a vocalist in mind? Was it a song that you thought a woman would sing or a guy would sing? Or?
I did think probably it was going to be more suited to a woman's voice. But that's a song probably that I had the chords for maybe 10 years ago. Probably not in the form that we recorded them, but just an outline of an idea. And the lyrics came much later. And I probably had the first verse maybe and the idea of Here Again. And kind of just built this song up around those ideas. And when I knew Michelle was going to do it, I kind of scrambled to finish it and make it make sense, I guess. And kind of finished it that way. And that was the process with quite a few of the songs on the record.
Okay, so with all the guest vocalists on the album, and of course guest musicians, but mainly the guest vocalists, so when you're writing songs, because a lot of people write songs, that may be of an autobiographical nature, are you generally writing, from your own personal experiences, or are you writing, for somebody else, telling a story, basically, that doesn't have anything to do with maybe you?
There's a combination of things. Most of the songs on this record were more story songs or trying to put myself in another persona, especially if I'm writing for a woman's voice. Probably the very first songs that I had published were written for a female voice. Back when I was in Blues Controversy, we usually had female singers. And so I and I loved the female voice. I mean, my dream is to write great songs for the female voice, a soulful female voice to sing. And so those songs in particular, all the songs that are sung by women were kind of written right from the beginning with the idea that a woman would sing them.
What's interesting too about the writing perspective, when you have professional singers, like every single person is on there, they found a way to make it their own. And Rosco would have a template as far as melody, but he was also very wanted them to put their own little stamp on
absolutely.
it. And in a situation where there is a writer and a producer and a vocalist, it's sometimes very like, okay, sing it exactly this way. This is the way we wanted it. This is the way we wrote it, blah, blah, blah. But this was definitely a project that was, everybody had artistic input. And when these people started warming up and getting used to singing the song, it became their story in a way. And that's the part that kind of blew me away the most, because it was really like, you hear, like, even just hearing Michelle on that outro Here Again, and her voice starts shredding a little bit, and it's just like, she's that's her, it's hers, So that's just professional vocalists that have that control over their voice and have the ability to interpret someone else's lyrics and make it their own, so it feels natural and it feels like their song. And
I was very gratified by the buy-in that all of these people had. They could have just come in and kind of sung by the numbers and read the lyrics, but everybody that came in here really bought into the concept, got into the feeling of it. There was some coaching. There's always going to be some of that, but we basically just turned on the mics and let them go. And that turned out to be a great decision. I think, like Andy said, these are all great vocalists. And if you get a great vocalist with a I hope, good song and buy-in, you're golden.
What? And yes, they are all great vocalists. So I guess I'm answering my own question here. But why not just come out and sing your own songs?
Well, I know what I sound like, and I do that. I mean, I have a solo record, and I sing on
Sure.
other people's records.
And you're on
things
that one.
like
Yes.
and I do have a cut on this record too. But over the years, I've written a lot of songs that I don't think suit my voice. I mean, if you hear John Cass singing "L.A. River" right now, I can't imagine anybody else singing that. And now I'll probably do some solo shows where I sing it, but I'm going to have to reinterpret that. You know, it's going to have
Sure.
to be a different version. Paul Randolph singing "Gradually Blue." I'm not going to do that.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
and that song and all the songs basically were songs that I didn't feel comfortable in my voice, and they were kind of story songs. And plus, I like working with great talent, man. I love this whole project has been a dream. It's like the kind of thing I started thinking about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it's like, boy, I would imagine so and so singing this song. And I did my solo record here in like 2015 maybe, and I met a lot of new players. Everybody that I brought in, some of these people were, you know, world famous playing on my record, were so generous with their time and effort and put homework into it. I'm like, maybe I can make this happen. And the first song that we did was Honesty's song, "You're the One," and that's an amazing tune.
It is.
And mostly because of her delivery. And when she came in and just completely knocked it out of the park, and Mike Robertson came up with the killer like Stax guitar part on there, and so we finished that song, and I'm like, Andy, we can do this. I mean, that sounds really good. So let's move on. I don't remember what the second song we did. Probably
It's
Brandon.
Calhoun. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brandon Calhoun, you know, sings on Detroit Tiger commercials and is all over, you know, was on television.
He owed you a
and
favor,
stuff.
you know,
Yeah.
because Rosco played harp on his stuff when Brandon recorded here. So it's just like, hey, you know.
And he came in and it was the same thing, and it was like, my goodness.
Yeah.
And we have
Right.
so much talent in this area. The talent base is incredible. And being able to bring all those people who are also my friends to do this kind of a project, it's just been amazing. It freaks me out.
When I first heard the record, and the first time I heard You Were the One, I actually sent Honesty a message right after, as soon as I was done listening to the song, saying, "Oh my God, blown away here." So,
Yeah.
it's very, very well done for sure. So yeah, you know, we get into where we started talking about A Little Problem, song by Brandon Calhoun.
Yeah, here I am. I'm drunk again. I'm putting off tomorrow.
Interesting little tune, subject matter wise. Again, you know, your writings, speaking from an autobiographical nature, or
A little bit.
yeah, okay.
You know, that tune, anybody who's been in the music business knows a bunch of people like that. And it's certainly not about Brandon, and it's not necessarily about me.
Sure.
But there's been times when I was sitting at a bar and thought to myself, you know, that was one too many. So you bring some personal experience to it too. But you know, everybody listening to this knows someone who's been in that situation.
Absolutely.
And I, of course, maybe music is overrepresented with people who maybe have some substance abuse problems, and maybe not. It's everywhere. But I thought that was kind of an individual take on a universal issue. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
And once again, he killed that song.
I think music is just a recipe for problems like that when you think about playing late nights in bars.
Well, sure.
It's just like, okay, that pretty much tees it up for a lot of people to fall down that path.
Wait a minute, they're bringing me drinks for free?
Yeah,
Right.
free drinks, you know, it's you know, and we've all had that, you know.
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
can relate.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like, and then you just kind of, hopefully you can slap yourself in the face soon enough to where you don't get yourself in any trouble. You know?
Right, absolutely. So with the crossing, and we bring Larry McCray into the mix.
Too many years I've wasted on weed, whites, and gin. I almost got away once, but he pulled me right back in. Tilts me with the apple. Say, here just
Now it's an official Guitars That Destroyed the World type of album with that burner.
Yeah,
So,
man.
great stuff, you know.
Gosh, that was so fun to do too. That too, when we use a slightly different rhythm section, I think that's got Steve McRae also on drums. I think my friend Scotty Vandell is playing rhythm guitar on that. And
That's one thing. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say that's one thing to mention too, as far as not to cut you off. I'm sorry. Is it's not only vocalists that are represented here from the community. It's like the Barbarossa Brothers
Sure.
rhythm section. You got Lauren playing drums, keys,
Right.
whatever. It goes beyond that. It's really like a weird community
Well,
all-star.
that's, I mean, I came up with the idea for Collective, and I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. We should call our group the Collective, too. We're always trying to come up with a name of the...
Wrecking Crew.
Right.
We're looking for suggestions for a name for Andy Reed's little group of amazing musicians that he has coming in and out of this
Like the
basement
Wrecking Crew or
studio.
the Funk
Yeah,
Brothers
yeah,
or
yeah.
the
The
Swampers.
Collective's pretty good.
It's not bad.
The Collective's pretty good.
And it feels like a collective because everybody has buy-in, too. So it's not like... This is really not my record. I wrote the songs. I at least co-produced all the songs on it. But this is everybody's record who's on it. Probably especially the vocalists because everybody pays attention to the vocalists. That's just the thing that happens. But, I mean, you listen to some of the organ on this thing, and if you actually just sat down and listened to the organ track, you'd be like, well, that was amazing, whether it had vocals on it or not. But yeah, to get back to Larry, yeah, we had his brother Steve playing on that. I think,
Scotty played a little
Scotty
guitar
played-
on that, didn't he?
yeah, is it Keith on bass?
Yes.
I think my friend Keith Carolyn plays bass on it, and it was a pretty basic. It's a song I have had the template for 25 years, and in the back of my mind, once again, I was like, this song would be great for Larry McRae. It's sort of about being on the road, and he's a road dog for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of guys locally that I've always put up on a pedestal. One guy I didn't get in on this project, but I hope to work with him is Mike Brush.
yeah.
He's like a guy that I'm always like, oh, he intimidates me, even though he's the nicest guy in the world.
Sure.
Larry's the same way, nicest guy in
Sure.
the world, but there's just something about that talent, and I grew up watching him, and
Yeah.
I've known him for a long time.
Them guys have been doing it a long time in
Yeah.
this area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
especially
and they're
Mike.
so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And being a writer, you got to write in some moments too, and it was by design that Roscoe was like, I think if I have Larry play, then I'll do this harmonica back and forth thing with him because I've always wanted to do that too.
Yeah.
So he is, so he's.
Hey, if you're the producer,
Well,
No,
yeah.
exactly. It's kind of a neat way to do things. So it's like we've talked about record making a million times. It's just like if you don't make it fun for you, what's the point? And deep down, this whole project is like Roscoe said, is bringing in just a bunch of friends and people that he admired. And for me too. I mean, just putting microphones up and listening to what these people sound like through my stuff is a treat for me. So he's making it fun for me as well. He was making it fun for everybody in the room. Everybody, no one had a bad attitude.
there was no tension in
None.
any of these sessions
None.
ever, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it, if you're in a band, everybody has a buy-in, and everybody thinks they get a vote.
Yeah, equal stock.
And I think everybody felt like they had buy-in, but nobody ever got mad if we said, hey, can you do another take, or how about a different tone on that guitar or something like that. It was so easy. I never dreamed that it would be that easy to do something like this. Took time, a lot of arrangement, scheduling, is everybody's a working musician, so trying to get everybody here at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So we get into the final track of the album, Wrong-Headed Thinkin', and this is the track that you lend your vocal talents on.
Yeah.
And this is done with the Barbarossa Brothers.
It's what we get for that. Wrong-headed thinking, resulting from too damn much drinking. Well, my thinking head was shrinking while my little head grew. It was
And yes, it's very Barbarossa Brothers-like, if you
Yeah.
will. That Mardi Gras sound is very prevalent and a lot of fun. And again, personal experiences there in that
It's an
one?
absolutely true story.
Good. I was hoping you'd say that.
There, it is. It's a true story. A few names have been changed. A little bit about the ending is a little different because I wanted to tie it up in a songwritery style. So there's a fictional incident at the very end, but every other thing in that song actually happened to me and a good friend of mine in New Orleans. We went down to Jazz Fest, probably mid-2000s or something, and it's just a crazy weekend. And it's a true story.
Very cool.
And it's set in New Orleans.
Sure.
Around here, who you going to get to do a song set in New Orleans but the Barbarossa
You
Brothers?
betcha.
And it was so personal that I felt that I should sing it. So my special guest on that song is the Barbarossa Brothers. I lobbied to put it on the next record because you've got, you got J.D., you got Paul Randolph, you got Michelle O'Neill, Randy Calhoun, Michael Robertson, Honesty, Larry McRae, and Jen Cass, and Roscoe's singing one. But the more we thought about it,
I pushed him on
He did push me on it,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we put it on there. It's probably the last thing the Barbarossa Brothers recorded. And that kind of I'm really glad we were able to do that.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
because I miss those guys.
And we didn't really talk about L.A. River, but another wonderful song. That one features Jen Cass on vocals. And
LA River once flowed free. LA River.
this tune for me, the first time I heard it, I was thinking to myself, not that I would necessarily know this for sure, but I thought, if someone were to enjoy maybe, smoking grass in the morning, this would be a perfect song for that.
Nobody does that.
Well,
Who does
I
that?
know. Like I said, I wouldn't know
Wake and bake?
about that, but anyways, great song.
Yeah, that's and boy did she deliver on that. It's a little outside of Jen's normal folk wheelhouse, but I've worked with Jen enough now to know that she can do a lot with her vocal chops, and she did. And that's another one of those songs where I had the L.A. River once flowed free, L.A. River trying to get down to the sea, that line for 10 years.
Okay.
And that was it. It didn't have a bridge, didn't really have a chorus or anything. We did a demo of it, I think, with just me singing an acoustic guitar. And that kind of inspired me to finish the lyrics. And once we were done with that, Andy and I were sitting around in here one night, and he suggested that who would be great to sing that song is Jen. And at that time, I was thinking of Jen as a folk singer. I did a few shows with her, and I was like, no, she could definitely do this song. And once again, complete buy-in, came in, gave it an emotional feel that I was really looking for on that tune, and just did such a great job on it. Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of that track, other than Jen's vocal, is the two guitar dudes living together. There's a great relationship between Scott Vandell and Mike Robertson that takes place on this record, and they're both such great guitarists, and they're both completely different in their approach, but they both have such respect for each other. And if you listen to that, Scotty's in one ear and Mike's on the other, and they just play off each other and create this blanket of sound with their two guitars. And that really kind of laid
Sets
this
it up.
foundation in this chill atmosphere. You're smoking not your smoking
You're
grass
right,
in the
but
morning, but
somebody is somewhere.
somebody, yeah. And that was really an aha moment for us. Like, okay, this is and it was just natural. I mean, they both just kind of laid in there, and they there's something about musicians listening to each other and reacting and playing off each other that that's where like that magic happens. You listen to some of those like early Tom Petty records when the band's playing together, and everybody that played on this record is has their ears open and is listening to what else is around them, and then they add to that, and that just shows how good those guys are on guitar, and how much respect they have for each other, and that's a great example of those two, how good they are within a unit and how everybody's ego is in check.
You've been a musician for several decades now, I assume.
You don't have to say it like that.
Okay. Well, for a while, let's just do it that way. And
I started late though, man. I started when I didn't play a note in public till I was 32.
Okay.
So it seems like I've been around
So decades.
longer. Yeah.
So, and I hate to call this a solo effort because it really isn't. But so this is like your second solo release now.
Yeah.
Are you taking recording a little bit more seriously than you did in the past, or are you into that more now?
I told Andy I want 1 day a week for the rest of my life. I really love the recording process. I'm a collaborator. That's basically what I am. In my musical life, I'm known mostly as a soloist on harmonica. And that's nice. That's fun. I mean, you get to go up and be a star for 2 minutes while you're playing harmonica. But I love collaboration. And all the bands I've been in, they've all been collaborative things. I like getting in a room with really creative, smart people and making music happen. And the best place for me to do that is in the studio. I don't have a working band right now, even though I'm playing with a lot of different bands. So this is where I create my art, if you can call it art, in the studio.
I think we can.
Yeah. And so, yeah, man, I'm going to be a studio dog, and you just keep getting better at it. And working with the people, almost everybody on that record's a great songwriter too. Everybody on that record is a great songwriter. Mm-hmm. So you have to step up your game. You can't just bring them some easy rhymes and bad chorus and make it work. So my songwriting is, I think, stepped up. I keep working at that all the time. Learning how to manage time and a band in the studio has been a learning process. We never had any ego problems or anything like that, but somebody eventually has to say, all right, here's what we're going to do. Let's lay it down and let's do it. And I've gotten better and better at that. Andy's a genius at that too. So just hanging around with Andy and watching how he handles personalities and personnel, I really love it. I think this is something I'm going to be doing as long as I can.
Awesome.
And as long as I can afford it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things about this record, and the camera's probably not going to pick it up, but we'll point. So when you get your copy of your CD and you look down here, you'll see a number, and that's RRC 0001. So this is the first release of the newly formed Reed Recording Company record label. Andy, let's hear about this.
All right. Well, we're trying to do this in a way that's not as businessy, if that's a word.
Does that mean I'm not going to make any money?
Well, everybody owns their own record. Everybody owns their own record, which is the main thing.
Well, I'm waiting for my advance. I mean,
you'll
did
get
we
it.
talk about that?
It's in the mail. I told you it's in the mail. Just don't worry about it. So we've had a conversation about doing something like this, and it's almost like Roscoe's record in a way. We want everybody that's going to be involved in the label to be kind of like part of the label, meaning, it's so hard to do things as an independent songwriter and putting out records myself. It's always like, okay, I gotta do my mass email. Okay, I gotta do this. I gotta send it to this guy. I gotta send it to that guy. Rather than just having everybody kind of in it for themselves, we decided what if as these releases come out, because we're all with everybody, we're all behind each other, so why don't we all just focus and help Roscoe promote his record, and then when JD's record comes out, we'll sit there and focus and let's try to think of creative ways to promote this. Let's not do it's such a different world now. It
right.
doesn't, it's CDs are a tough sell, everything's streaming. This was a great idea, even just doing this as a new promotional tool, which is fantastic, so we appreciate you helping as well.
My pleasure.
And so that is kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to think outside the box a little bit, exploring different ideas and everybody also has their own individual resources, and then if someone tries something that really works, then they're going to share it with the rest of the rest of the people. But it's definitely, the music still belongs to the artist. It's not like a label where it's going to be I'm sitting here like look at all this money I'm making, that doesn't work like that. Yeah. My whole concept behind that is I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of bigger releases with some more bigger independent labels and stuff like that, and it's been a blast to get those good reviews. It's been really fun. It's definitely not like financially lucrative or anything, but it's just that's what we make music for. We want as many people to listen to it and like it.
Yeah.
We don't care if we're cashing checks. We just want to put it out there for people to like. So I thought, since we have this vibrant music scene, it's like, what if we could just take a spotlight and just shine it a little closer to this top thing, or not the top, I shouldn't even say the top, just the stuff the top stuff that I have I'm fortunate enough to work on. And then, it's kind of like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You put the Reed recording thing on there, and I'll do my best to help promote it on my end. No money has to exchange hands. We're just working for each other, helping each other out.
So now we're back to that, where that word collective comes into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all it is. It's kind of like, we're just kind of bringing our family close together to kind of help each other out on releases. One thing that this has done as like a tie together is it's given a lot of people an opportunity to get into the studio, and Rosco has given them an opportunity to be on a record with a bunch of other musicians and be a part of something, which I think a lot of that had stemmed from the recording studio here as well. It's like it has become the collective this is just another branch off of, I think, what we've been doing for a long time, and with playing with friends, and Donnie Brown's a great session drummer that's been in here on a lot of tracks, and it's just everything has really become closer and closer and closer, and everybody's been given an opportunity to be on each other's records and stuff, and we're all taking advantage of it and enjoying it. So I think it's just, this is like the beginning, the first project of a lot of things that are going to be like this, because we do have all the resources in our area, and we don't have to go too far to get some badass talent in here and to help out on a track. That is a great business card, if you will, for what we have here. It's really like, you could give that, it's like, what is the Tri-City music scene all about? Take this record.
Yeah,
and I think that
collective.
and I think that's a good thing for us to finally have, and Rosco is the one that brought it all together. So,
well, one of the funnest things about this is my circle of musicians is a little different than Andy's. And I was able to bring some people who would never have heard of Reed Recording Studio in here. And Andy has relationships with those people now. And they've seen what Andy can do. And that feels great to me. Or, Paul Randolph coming up from Detroit. Hearing these great musicians on this track, which is pretty jazzy, pretty sophisticated track. He was amazed, I think, come down here in this little basement studio and contribute to a project.
The more people that are in this tiny little room, the better. We have a lot of laughs, and there's some mudslinging, and it's a good time, and you hear that in the music. Yeah. You can hear.
It wouldn't matter if the music wasn't good. It is.
Yeah, no,
it is fun though.
And that's first and foremost. It's just like, we can look at every one of those songs and tell a story about recording it, and we had a good time that day.
I agree. I am constantly blown away by the talent that's right here in the Great Lakes Bay region. You don't have to travel too far to see professional musicians really laying it down somewhere close by.
I'm not sure. It's going to sound like whining a little bit, but I'm not sure if people around here. I mean, I know people who will pay $200 to go sit in the 50th row at the Palace and watch a show by somebody well-known. The music is not going to be any better than you're going to hear on a Friday night from any one of the bands that we've talked about. And maybe worse, because it's going to be canned, ultra rehearsed, nothing surprising.
Absolutely.
It's just going to be a chorus that so you can get up. And I like that too. I mean, I traveled to South Carolina to see Jason Isbell, but I can also travel down to BMO's or White's Bar or any one of those places and see my friends play, and it's like, if you go see Aaron Johnson play guitar, you're not going to see better guitar players
Exactly.
in some touring
Sure.
band in some gigantic.
And I couldn't agree more with that. I've been saying that for a long time as well, and I'm guilty of it as well. I mean, before I embraced the local music community several years ago, I was also one who was traveling to Detroit all the time to see these national bands, and I found it to be a better experience personally. I love going to see local bands play. It's great to be able to talk to the artists about a song that just totally impressed you or something, and then you can talk to them about it and have a beer or whatever.
And get that
it's great.
one-on-one
Yeah.
appreciation.
Yeah, and you didn't spend $150 to get
Yeah.
in the door. I mean,
Exactly,
and you're not treated like cattle.
Exactly.
And it is a harder sell. The cool thing about this group of musicians in the area is there's absolutely zero competition.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is behind everybody else. And honestly, if we didn't have each other, like, there's a few shows where it's all musicians watching, and
Sure.
it's just like, if we didn't have that, then we'd be screwed in a lot of cases. But it's like, we're lucky to at least have that foundation to where we're all friends and we're all
Fans of
brothers and
each other's
sisters.
work.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's another thing that I think has to be extremely rare in a lot of music scenes. It's like there is a heavy competition for the gigs.
Sure.
And people are trying to, one up each other, where we're all just trying to go to bat for each other.
And I see that time and time again,
Yeah.
too. I'll go to gigs and say, hey, the local music community is supporting the local music community.
yeah.
I wish more just people at large would come from
That's
the community.
the thing. That's the harder thing.
Right,
Yeah,
and that's the harder sell.
Getting the, everyday.
It may just be the new reality that we have. There's so much competition for entertainment time and entertainment dollar, and you can stay home and stream stuff
Sure.
all weekend long.
Yeah.
And I think we've all had to adjust to that as musicians. It's not super lucrative to play local shows, especially if you're playing original music. And most of who I go see, the bands and the acts, are my favorites are the ones that are playing original music. We have great cover bands
Yeah.
around here. And
But also, those
Ultra
original
talent.
bands are just playing to play.
Yeah.
They're not anticipating, a sold out show where everybody's going to walk home. That's the bonus if that happens.
Absolutely.
But it's to get up on stage with your buddies and give a show to whoever decides and wants to come hang out and share that moment. And that's really kind of rare as well. It's like,
Sure.
that's
You know
the
what?
intentions are good. Intentions are always
Yeah.
good.
one of the other things we have that I'm really happy about and proud of, I guess, is we have intergenerational cooperation, and you'll see it on that record. I'm going to be 61 pretty soon, so I've been around, and I've almost always played with people who are younger than me because I'm old. But there's people on this record who are in their early 20s, and who I go out to see and enjoy, and all the way up to my age, and there may be some older people in. Oh, Spike, you're older than I am.
You win an award.
But I like the energy. There is no competition. The Barbarossa brothers, for instance, are younger. I don't know how old those guys are now. It seems like they've been around forever, because
Right.
I've known them since they were like 15. But they're like so respectful, I guess.
They're humble.
And it's like I'm in awe of them, and they're like telling me, "Oh man, I went to see you at White's when I snuck in when I was 17. And it's always one of my
That's
great." And I'm
awesome.
like, "Wow, are you kidding?" And I'm like, I was an influence? Wait a minute. No, you're way too good for me to have been an influence on you. I think they were talking about Mike, though, probably.
Everybody that's involved is like you said, just a fan of everybody else, and so there's just, that respect factor goes a long way in music in general. It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be just in this situation. I remember watching Drew at 17, playing solos with Matt Bessie, and Drew just going up there and hitting like 4 notes and they're going, your turn. You know, like that. Like those guys, Lauren and Drew and Ryan, have had the musical maturity since they've been really young.
Yeah. Yep.
And so for them to slide in, they're old souls anyway. You can tell that.
Yeah.
So for them to slide in a situation like this, where it's you know, well, you know, older. We're all in our 40s and 50s and up, but they just slide right in and fit right in, and they get it. They get all the references we're throwing at them because we're all
Music geeks.
Yeah.
and we all like a lot of the old records and stuff like that, and they're the same way. So we all come from the same place. You know, we really do.
It's interesting because you just reminded me of something. When we get the rhythm section in here to record like the rhythm parts of it, any of these songs, it's like one of the first things that we say or start talking about is like, all right, this song we'd like to have like a Donny Hathaway feel. And everybody knows what that's going to sound like.
Every song starts off with the Donny Hathaway feel.
Yeah.
So you know.
But I'm Ready Now is a great example. I had my acoustic demo, and you know, I'm playing it, and Andy, I think it might have been Andy, it might have been Mike Robertson, said this would be a good Tom Petty-ish or Ryan Adams-ish type of a song, and I hadn't exactly thought of it that way, and I'm like, yeah, that would work great. And it did. And we got the perfect guy to come in and sing it,
and
too.
then, all those early decisions musically, they influence the music decisions later. So it's like as you start building, all these are built from scratch. Mm-hmm. They're built from like the floor up.
Oh man, and believe me, if you heard my acoustic guitar demos of these songs, you'd be like, that ain't the same song.
So as these things start to unfold and kind of rear their faces, it really, like he said, or with picking Jen to pick the LA River song, or having JD sing, or in Rosco to sing Wrong-Headed Thinking. You know, it's just like, you gotta sing that song. It's like, because it just, you know, that's my job for a situation like this is to be Roscoe's outside, you know, separating yourself from the project and looking at it as a new set of ears. Mm-hmm. And so where he's like, oh, I don't want to be on a record like this. I'm like, man, you sound awesome. You sound great. You got to sing that song. You got to put it on the record. You know, it's like it fits. Trust me, it fits. And it's harder for him to see something like that than it is for me to see something like that. That
might be Andy's biggest gift too, as a producer, engineer, recording company owner, label owner.
Label
is kind of figuring out what you didn't know you wanted. That's his gift, and he's really good at it.
I'm gonna steal that quote.
Yeah. What did I say? Did we get that?
I got it on that audio here, so that's gonna be my ringtone when you call me now.
But it's really true. I mean, and that's what a producer is supposed to do. And he co-produced, I mean, everything that I've done in here. I mean, I'm a producer that, in the sense that I'm making decisions and kind of coming up with ideas or maybe tones or sounds.
And the personnel, that's a huge part of production, is picking the people.
Sure.
A lot of people don't think about that. Like the classic definition of a producer is assembling the musicians and giving them their parts and telling them, and that you couldn't have picked a better roster.
Yeah.
And that's all the producer.
And all of the technical stuff. And engineering, obviously. I don't think I touched the board the whole time. I've been in here for 3 years.
But you have a good ear for the sounds and stuff like that. So when we start dialing stuff in, it's just like we can talk about, like, you know, narrowing the vision about like a certain drum sound or a certain what was the one the one Mike sang, and we got that ginormous kick drum out.
Yeah, we didn't
stuff
talk
like
about that tune. Wow.
And just different things like that. And in the end, I think our main goal is to try to make each other laugh or smile about something cool that's happening, and
that's when you know it worked. Is if you try it and everybody's kind of like, I think that worked, and then you kind of listen back to it and everybody kind of goes, oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're pretty willing to try some unusual things. Nothing's really out of bounds. We threw away some crazy ideas that didn't work, but we tried them.
Okay.
You know, and like the song he was talking about, "Get Out" with Mike Robertson, has the most amazing drum sound on it. And so we had this great drum sound, a gigantic kick drum that my friend Donnie Brown played for that cut, and then we started layering stuff on it. And Mike came in and sang it, and it was a pretty big sound. We had big drums and we had a big sound on it, and we're like, something about that just isn't working. We just started taking stuff out. We took this out. We took the acoustic guitar out. We took this out. Basically, it's like electric guitar, the great Jim Alfredson on organ.
Actually, it's his resonator, isn't it? Isn't it the resonator?
Yeah,
guitar?
there's resonator. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the resonator
yeah.
guitar,
Yep.
organ, bass, and drums.
That's it.
I think are
yeah,
the
yeah.
main
So we
outs.
just kept taking things out, and we discovered Alfredson's organ thing that he had done under it, which we had kind of buried. We were thinking it was just organ comping, and we're like, oh, that's the song, man. You gotta.
Yeah, you listen to just that and the drums, and then there's a feel there, but we kind of buried it under a bunch of other stuff. So
Probably Andy's guitar. Probably some production stuff Andy wanted to put on there. He wants to put shaker and acoustic guitar on everything.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much.
I do that stuff. I do that stuff when he goes home, and he doesn't know it's on there. But
All right.
The Andy Reed shaker
I
sound.
actually played every single thing and sang every single thing on that record. No one really knows that. We're just revealing that right now, just so you guys know.
Yeah, yeah. I love what you did on LA River, man.
Thanks, man.
He does play a lot of instruments
I played
on this record a lot.
I saw that, yes.
Little bass here and there, and a lot, like Rosco said, though, a lot of it's just kind of laying stuff down. Even with like I'm Ready Now. Sometimes I think I played bass with Lauren and Mike just to kind of be there for them to do the rhythm track, for them to do their parts. And then it's just like, well, it's kind of working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't really think, I didn't put a lot of thought into it, but it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, it feels really good. Let's just roll with it, that kind of thing. But sometimes I'm just putting stuff in there to lay down a foundation, the riff at the end of it and stuff like that. And so,
Oh, that's right. You came up with the killer guitar tag at the end of that song, too.
but it's like, I'm in the situation where it's just like, I want Rosco to bring in whoever he wants. I don't care if all my stuff gets deleted. I'm just kind of doing it to get the best performances out of the people that are in the room. And a lot of that is just like plugging in and playing along just to keep the energy up.
I finished this record and played it for my wife, and like two of her favorite songs I don't play on at all or sing on. And she's like, "You're not on this cut." And I'm like, "Didn't need it."
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
And there's no Rosco everybody knows he can shred on the harmonica, but everything that's on here is pretty composed and written as part of the composition and part of the song.
Just trying to make the song better.
Right.
Sure. So, yeah, people who may be familiar with your music over the years, we should let everybody know this is not a harmonica album.
No.
I mean, there's some harmonica playing and great playing at that, but not a harmonica-heavy album, I should say.
No, I have never really made one of those yet. Maybe we should do that. He's like, no. There are tunes that I kind of set out to think, oh, I'm gonna go to town on this song. And the older I've gotten, the more I've hung around with great songwriters, and the more I've been in the studio, I'm like, no, just make the song sound better. You don't need to show everything that you know, and you can do that live. And and you've seen me.
Absolutely.
I may throw down live sometimes, but these songs didn't need that, man.
I agree. They didn't. It's a wonderful album. I absolutely fell in love with it first spin. So very well done, guys.
Thanks.
I can't imagine it being any better. It's just a great variety of different genres of music with wonderful musicians and great vocalists, and it's absolutely wonderfully produced as well, and just thumbs up all the way.
All right, thanks.
I think it's awesome.
Why don't you tell them where to get the record?
Yes.
You can get this at my website for this record, which is called For Collective. It's at forcollective.net. And you can buy the CD, actual physical CDs, if anybody still does that. I'm not sure they do, at CD Baby. You can download it from my website, forcollective.net.
All down to side, it's just not right for me.